Are you thinking about buying a home in Florida? Before you sign anything, you need to know these 7 hidden risks that could cost you thousands. Or worse, it could make you regret the purchase. I'm Ricardo Lopez with Marisol Properties. I've helped many buyers navigate the purchase of property here in Florida. And let me get right into it. Number 1, natural disasters. Let's start with hurricanes. Hurricanes are part of life here in Florida. The hurricane season runs from June 1st to November 30th, so it's quite a long period of time. And we get sometimes hurricanes at the beginning of the season, sometimes at the very end. It affects you no matter where you are in Florida. Now, the coastal areas get the most danger because of the wind. When a hurricane hits through the coast, the wind is the highest if the hurricane is coming right in, and then it dies down. Also, the storm surge is very, very dangerous at the coast. Now, we have a lot of coast all around Florida. However, it's not only the coast that gets affected, because flooding and tornadoes affect the rest of Florida as well. So you get all of Florida that gets affected by hurricanes. There are certain areas that are worse than others. For example, the Panhandle tends to be hit more often. Also, around the coast in South Florida. Where we are at in the Space Coast, we tend to have less number of hurricanes historically that hit right on this side. However, we do get them as well. Many people that are local here say that the Kennedy Space Center was placed here because it's less of a risk. I don't know about that. I wouldn't say we don't have a risk of hurricanes. I've been here quite a long time, and we've had quite a number of hurricanes that come in. However, as I said before, it's a way of life. Flooding is also a problem in many areas. One of the things that if you're buying property here is very important that you take a look at the flood zones. FEMA has a map. We have a map in our website. I'll leave a link in the description for our website. And you can check if the property is in a flood zone. If it is marked X, flood zone X, that means it's not in a flood zone. It's very unlikely. If it is in a flood zone, insurance for the property is very expensive. And also, if it does get flooded, that obviously is very expensive as well. You got to keep in mind that Florida is flat. The highest elevation in Florida is just 345 feet above sea level. That makes it the lowest high point of any U.S. state. There's also a lot of water in Florida. Many areas are swamps. I mean, if you go to South Florida, the Everglades, it's all, basically wetlands. So if you look at Florida from a map, or if you're if you're flying over Florida, you will see like there's water everywhere. And where you see, one of the things that you may find interested is that when you see a lot of houses and developments, there's always water. There's always lakes and canals and ponds. These are retention ponds that are built and canals that are being built in order to avoid flooding. It is very important to have that in an area. Areas that do not that were not designed with these artificial lakes, retention ponds, canals, they tend to flood more. So this is important to have an understanding of what you're getting yourself into, and that you see to make sure that it is not a flood area. Number 2 is the high cost of insurance. Florida has some of the highest homeowners insurance rates in the U.S. This is, of course, due to the high cost of natural disasters, but also the climate that deteriorates the structures. We are surrounded by water, being a peninsula, and the proximity to the ocean and the salt water causes a lot of damage to property, especially property that is right on the water. I've had issues like my in-laws bought a grill and they they put the grill outside in 6 months. They bought a less expensive grill and thinking that it would look nice. They didn't even get to use it, and it was falling apart because it was completely rusted. They didn't listen to me that I said to buy stainless steel and spend a little bit more money, but that's another story. It's not only the salt water, it's also the strength of the Florida sun. The sun beating on the structures causes deterioration on the structures. For example, a roof that normally up north may last 30 years, here it only lasts like 15 years. In fact, a lot of insurance premiums get denied because a roof is over 15 years. And when you're going to buy property, we have to check the age of the roof. That's extremely important because that has to pass. In fact, one of the things that is recommended and that actually is necessary if you are financing the property, you need to do what is called a 4-point insurance, 4-point inspection for insurance, I should say. That 4-point inspection is the air conditioner, the roof, the plumbing, and the electric. Those 4 things need to be checked, but one of them is the roof. They need to have to check and do what is called a wind mitigation, the 4-point and the wind mitigation. That is important in order to check that the roof is in good shape. If the roof is more than 15 years, in all likelihood, nowadays, it needs to be changed. Number 3 in my list is homeowners associations and their fees. Many homes in Central Florida, many communities have HOAs that have strict rules and they have high fees. Now, number 1 with the HOAs that some people are concerned about is the restrictions. In other places outside of Florida, you don't have as many HOAs, but we have a lot of newer communities that were built. And as I said before, some of these communities were designed, built, they had to build the lakes and the retention ponds, and it's all planned. And all of that costs money. And also in order for them to look nice and to make sure that people keep them in good condition, some of them have restrictions, what is called deed restrictions, that do not allow certain things. Exterior changes, paint colors, they regulate all of that. On the positive side, it's nice because you buy something and you're not going to have a neighbor painting the house, pink or a color that you may dislike, because everything has to be sort of consistent. However, it also it can be very difficult, and I can have another video that talks all about that. But there's also limits in, say, pets, the size of the pets, short-term rentals. A lot of these communities with HOAs, they don't allow Airbnb or things like that. It is very important to read the HOA bylaws and ask about fees before buying. Number 4 is termite and pest problems. Florida has a very warm, humid climate, and that is a paradise for termites and other pests. One of the things that people think that they can do when they move here is, go on vacation and let me turn off the air conditioner. I don't need it. No, you cannot do that. You need to control the temperature of your house because it doesn't go very long before the humidity and the heat creates mold to grow inside the house. And anything that is wet, if there's if the roof is leaking or anything like that, it attracts termites and other pests. It's what is called wood destroying organisms. That's why we recommend that anytime you buy a house, you do what is called a WDO inspection, wood destroying organisms, to check that everything is okay. Now, you can have a house that is built from wood frame, and is in perfect shape if they have taken care of it. But if somebody doesn't take care of the house, the mold or humidity or wet areas can really damage the structure. So many homes, especially older ones, may have previous damage, and that needs to be checked. Number 5 is new construction pitfalls. Many buyers assume that if they're buying a new home, it's going to be perfect. Wrong, absolutely wrong. Some builders are cutting corners, delays are common, things cause problems. If you have a delay and a builder deliver wood and that wood is sitting on the lot for a long time, it's gonna get wet. And then they use that wood has problems. I've seen it myself that we have done inspections on a brand new home and go up in the attic and the main beam is cracked. It is always recommended to get an independent home inspection, even if it is a brand new house, because there's always issues that you're going to find. Now, a builder is going to tell you that is not needed. Do not listen to that. By the way, talking about new construction, always recommended to have an agent representing you, even if it's new construction. Most builders work with us, and that is not a problem, but you want to have representation. Number 6 is commuting and traffic issues. We're growing, and that growth has resulted in growing traffic problems. Some communities seem great until you realize that the commute to work is a nightmare. We have areas that get very congested, and it takes a long time to, for cars to get through to move. Now, in where I'm at, where we are, which is in the Space Coast, Brevard County, it's not as bad as other areas like, say, Orlando, but it's still night and day from what it was 10 years ago. One tip is to test drive your commute during rush hour. As a matter of fact, I always recommend driving around at all times, checking what the area is like so that you feel comfortable with the area before you make a decision to buy a property. Number 7 is property taxes and CDD fees. Property taxes in Florida vary by county and can be surprisingly high. Many newer communities have also what is called the Community Development District fees, the CDD fees, and some buyers do not even realize that that's there. We have here, for example, in Viera, some communities that have 2 HOAs and a CDD fee on top of that. So that is something that you need to be aware before you decide to go under contract and to buy a property, because it's going to make a big difference. Those are the biggest things to watch out for before buying a house here in Florida. Avoiding these mistakes could save you a ton of money and stress. If you have any questions or need help finding the perfect home, reach out to me at Marisol Properties. We can help you find the perfect home. We can hold you by the hand. We can make sure to avoid all of these mistakes. Thank you so much for watching. Here's another video that is also very interesting, and I'll see you in the next one.